you. Mr. President, welcome to Canada.
Thank you very much.
It's a great honor. Happy birthday. A few days short.
A little bit.
A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day. Happy birthday to the U.S. military as well, 250th. And this is the 50th birthday, if you will, of the G-7. This marks the 50th birthday of the G-7, and the G-7 is nothing without U.S. leadership, and your personal leadership of the United States, many issues, geopolitics, economic, technology, and working hand in hand with the United States, Canada and the United States, and the other G7 partners with your leadership. Very much looking forward to the meeting and grateful to have you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it, and we've developed a very good relationship, and we're going to be talking about trade and many other things. And we have a whole group of people, some traders and some other people. I see my top economy people. But we have a very talented group of people, and you do too, and I know they work together very well. I look forward to that. The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table, so it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot, and I expect to. And I think our primary focus will be trade and trade with Canada, and I'm sure we can work something out.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so much.
Wow, he came prepared for that one. First chance he got to speak, he pretty much saying we should not have expelled Putin from the G8. That's pretty provocative coming from an American president. The leadership and our elected officials in this country pretty much disagree with that. Our Congress, and that's a really bold stand for a leader to stand up and do. But why? Why is he pulling so hard for Putin? I mean, I don't know. Is it personal? Is he really being a good leader and thinking things out? Because Russia is a superpower. Russia is a military superpower on this planet. It can cause grave damage to anybody who gets in their crosshairs, like the United States. Anybody who gets in our crosshairs, a lot of trouble. I have no problem with a person who wields that kind of power being at the table, sitting next to the other world leaders, not somewhere excluded, by himself, pissed off, feeling like he's been rejected or being ostracized or something. And all the other world leaders are over there making decisions on trade and business and what their countries are, how they're going to divvy things up. And if you're not at the table, you're not being represented. Why would you be punished to that degree, according to Barack Obama? The United States could be expelled from the G8 for some of the things that it has done over the years historically, by its civil rights treatment of its own citizens. She could be expelled if the countries could stand on their own and bring up topics and vote on things like that. But for Trump to say that is a direct jab at Barack Obama, and him letting the United States know under his presidency that ain't the direction we're going in. If he has it if Barack could expel him, Trump could probably, if he could get enough support, bring him back. But only because we have 4-year terms over here as presidents, and everybody knows that is not the true feelings and beliefs of the higher ups in the United States government. They won't be fooled and follow Trump for a short 3.5 year run right now. And then when the new president comes in, they'll be looking at him, come on, man, what are you guys, crazy? The United States stays consistent on those type of things. But for some reason, Trump is under the illusion that he can save in 4 years what it's taken him 50 or 60 years to get us to. Giving parts of our country away for nothing. Giving parts of our country away because some things that we think are more important, like world dominance and extending our tentacles all over the planet so that we have military installations on every continent, is just a really bad way in these modern times to be thinking, when all of that money and all of those resources, if we all as countries with our technology could work together in every way. Every country needs a military, I believe. But every country only needs a military to protect its border. When you start launching missiles across continents and ones that go into space and then come back down before they hit their target, that's just a bit much. Nothing can be that serious. We work together with all the countries on the planet for medical research, for research in space, for all kind of technologies and computer advancements and artificial intelligence. But when it comes down to it, this whole different faction, the warmongering groups in every country, are the ones who have the last say. Because all that other stuff and any progress that we make is for nothing if it's all just blown apart and blown away and gone. And we are basically the reason for the end of the human race on the planet because we can't figure it out. It's ridiculous. Trump's on the right track, though. Bring the guy in out of the rain. Let him be a part of the fun and the games and the dinners and the festivities and the camaraderie so that he can get to know the other world leaders and he can begin to soften on some of his positions. He is not going to soften on his positions sitting over there by himself, being ostracized, being excluded. That's just not the way. And you would think that our first black president would be the one who would identify that and be like, hey, we're going to deal with him a little different. We understand the situation, and I'm not talking about us citizens because a lot of us don't. But the problem that Putin has is NATO infringing on what used to be Russian states, USSR, and when they were under the Soviet Union. And you can't be infringing on those states and expecting him to sleep good at night, knowing that it might be good for 40 years, but giving up that real estate and them having the opportunity to have NATO military installations built there doesn't help him. And any country would want to be left in a place where they can feel they can defend themselves and be safe. That's what it basically comes down to. Now, the United States, we feel the exact same way, but the norm has been to keep inching our way in that direction and to work closely with NATO and to take countries that are NATO friendly, like Ukraine, and stuff them with a bunch of money and a bunch of weapons and a bunch of technology and information, and letting Russia know out in the open which way they're heading, which way they're leaning. And Zelensky, you don't hear nothing but bad things about this guy personally, his personal life, who he is as a real person. Forget that he's the leader of Ukraine. Should we be dragged into World War III because Zelensky wants to become a part of NATO? I don't know. It's the kind of thing that they do need to figure out, but differently than warfare, different than excluding world superpowers who could be at the table. And like he said, hey, we're sitting here talking about Putin. We might as well have him here. He can answer some of these questions. And I believe that he is as human as Trump, as Jimmy Carter, as Kennedy, as any of them. As any of our politicians, and their politicians have different agendas than ours do. They're not bad people, just like our guys aren't bad people. Some of them ain't the smartest, some of them ain't the most compassionate, but for the most part, that's what you get out of the human race. But come on, we got to be reasonable here. We have guys like Barack Obama who should know, and I believe does know, that excluding Russia is not the best thing. It doesn't embolden them. It doesn't tell them you can just go start taking over. We have an understanding of world politics and the way that kind of stuff is working. Any of that stuff can be curtailed if we would sit down with Russia and make it very clear that we have no intention on allowing them to join NATO. And some countries are going to be geographically located where they're not going to be able to get involved in that kind of stuff because you're sitting on their border and you're going to let these NATO countries take a nice giant step forward. No, you can't expect that man to sit back and sleep good at night and be viewed as a good world leader. And he's just giving up the ghost to everybody. It's not the way it goes. And Trump knows that. And you got to be reasonable. Can't act like Putin ain't over there trying to protect his people and do the best that he can do and get over a little bit if he can, just like I feel we do. But all countries would like their country to be viewed in the most positive light. And the United States is no different. So with that being said, bring Putin back. Bring anybody else on this planet that's what it should be, not voted on. You should not be able to vote anybody in or off this island. This is one of those islands everybody should be able to get on and make it work. And set aside people who live in certain regions and certain parts of the world to hash out things in sub meetings and subcommittees and sub negotiations that aren't necessarily going to affect the rest of the G50, hopefully G90. It should get as big as it can get. G8, that's ridiculous. A planet the size of this with all the countries on all these continents, and we got only 8 of them chosen. And I'm sorry, 7. 1 was expelled. That's just a bit too imperialistic for me. They try to make things seem democratic. And if it's so democratic, why just 8 countries? Why such a small representation of this planet? Put them on there. Their resources are being discussed in that room, and they need to be in there. It's kind of bad that we got this NATO and BRICS thing going when none of that matters. We need to de-escalate around the globe. Israel's fine with having nuclear weapons, but no one else can, and they're good with them. No. Whatever you want your enemy to have, you should have the exact same thing. So that in case you have a lapse in civility, you don't go over there and murder his whole population, and he can't do the same to you. Conventional warfare is sick and sadistic and as far as we should have ever gone, and that's too far. Anything beyond that, with the technology and people with their high educations only to make bombs and plot destruction and architect death, it's very sad. Very sad.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, what is holding up a deal with Canada from your perspective?
It's not so much holding up. I think we have different concepts. I have a tariff concept, and Mark has a different concept, which is something that some people like. But we're going to see if we can get to the bottom of it today. I'm a tariff person. I've always been a tariff. It's simple, it's easy, it's precise, and it just goes very quickly. And I think Mark has a more complex idea, but also very good. So we're going to look at both, and we're going to see what we're going to come out with something, hopefully.
Do you think a deal is achievable within days, within weeks? Is there that kind of runway?
Yeah, it's achievable. Both parties have to agree. Yeah, sure.
Mr. President, have you heard any signals or seen any messages from intermediaries that Iran wishes to de-escalate the conflict?
Yeah,
What have you heard? What have you heard from the Iranians?
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days, and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day, I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war, and they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
And what would you say, in your opinion, what would it take for the U.S. to get involved in this conflict militarily?
I don't want to talk about that.
And you mentioned Putin.
I knew they were going to throw one of them questions in there. And just to get off topic for a second and to do what they did, jump over here and speak on it. And I wish that the United States wasn't such a bully and such of a world boss that everything that we see right in front of us, we don't get to speak on it until they get to put a spin on it, put a label on it, and then we can talk about it in that context, but we can't talk about it for what we see with our own eyes. And that's what the problem is with the press in this day and age. The press should be a little more independent than they are. Very much more independent, actually. But the man is standing here being asked a question about the United States getting involved in a war that Israel initiated by striking Iran, and the United States is already involved. They listen to us. They need us. We love them. We could work it out where we should be able to sit down Netanyahu and be like, look, man, you being a little hot-headed here, you tripping. You know, we are at the end of the negotiations. If you want to be that rigid, if you want to be so tough, we're one day over and you're striking them. I mean, if that's the way it's going to be, then I don't think this planet is ever going to be peaceful. Sometimes negotiations drag on for 3 years, a decade, and you are asking somebody to do something that they don't want to do with their country, with their land, with their resources, and with their money. And you have to figure out a way other than threatening to kill them to get this figured out. There has to be a way to figure it out. Countries like the United States and China need to push harder to control some of the very dangerous countries, just not world superpowers. But they need to put these people in check and let them know, look, we're not about to lose this planet because you got a problem. You know, maybe you and him need to go somewhere and box, but you're not about to kill millions of people. You set these people back so many decades and having to rebuild infrastructure, and it's just unnecessary, totally unnecessary. And we keep allowing it to happen and participate in it, and all we look like is a bunch of proxy wars and things going on that, you know, intel and information and advocating with certain people, but no blood on our hands. It's ridiculous. You can look at the way this stuff is going and what's really going on, and then the way they put the story out to us like we're kids, and you can't curse in front of us. You have to begin being kind of like Donald Trumpish. Just say the shit. And he don't make the best decisions. He ain't a bright thinker. But that right there is just about as authentic as it can be to get up there and say, man, you know what? I got something to say. I'm going to say that shit. I'm the president of the United States. Nobody's going to tell me, sir, if I was you, I wouldn't. You know, no, why? Because it goes against what his opponents feel. Well, that's about as raw and honest as you can be, opposite of what your opponents feel. Because none of them would get up there and say that. They would say that expelling Russia was a good thing. Then we started having wars popping up all over the place instead of building a relationship with that country, allowing him to be a part of that group of nations so that they can say, hey, I know you guys are having an issue with wheat or flour or oil or whatever. You know, my friend over here, he gave us a good deal. He's looking for more people to jump on. Bring him up, bring countries together, help him in his trade, help his country, you know, live a decent life, their quality of life go up. Instead of worrying about killing people. You can kill so many people in an instant. People spent their lives being educated and loving their families and going to work every day, and not to just be blown to smithereens because Netanyahu can't get along with them and they can't get along with him and their friends, which now we look back, we see they were just taking them out one by one so that then when they went for Iran, there'd be nobody to help with any sense. It's a very sad state of affairs, you guys. And we, as the United States of America, want to keep doing what we've been doing. What we've been doing is being complicit to countries like Israel, emboldening countries like Ukraine that needs to be talked to like an adult would talk to another adult. Look, man, this ain't a good idea. It could tip off World War III. And it's not so important that you join NATO that we end the planet. It's just not. You're going to have to not be a member of NATO. You can let Putin know you will not be joining NATO. We will too. We're going to sign documents, do what you got to do, but let Zelensky know you can be friendly to NATO as far as doing trade and that kind of stuff. You can be friendly to NATO as far as allowing visas for people to come and enter your country and visit. That's where it ends. It ain't going to be no merging of intelligence against Russia, and that you cannot be involved in that. You have to declare yourself neutral. See it? Well, how's that so hard? And bring Putin back in. Why would you not? Why would you not? It doesn't even make sense. And you want a peaceful planet because everybody don't agree with what you agree with. Hey, we want Mexico to be a part of BRICS. What if they said that? And Mexico be like, yeah, we like that. That'd be cool. And they find something that maybe Mexico was getting from us or doing for us, and they decide they're doing it for the other team. They like it better. The money's better. It's a better deal. Or they kind of pissed at us or whatever. I don't know. But then what do? You can't always have it your way. That's why if we can relent on that point and say we're going to leave Ukraine alone and go talk to our friends in NATO who will listen to us, say, hey, man, leave them alone. Knock that shit off. And then when anything happens that comes too close to us geographically, then we can go and talk to China or Russia or the other superpowers, and we can have that kind of relationship. Hey, y'all going too far with that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no problem with you guys and your money and your trade, but y'all tripping. We know y'all doing too much military training and trading, and that could affect us. You keep it respectful, and everybody. But we trying to keep pushing and pushing until we just have basically sewn up every inch of the globe, and that's not really necessary. It's no reason to fight if nobody's fighting you. We need to figure out how not to fight people, how to stop toppling regimes and killing thousands of people just because we don't like the way they think, or the way they think conflicts with our ability to make money in that area. So we got to just stop that off, or we would have to remove ourselves from it'll be the G6.
Do you think that he should have a seat at the G7 today, that it should be the G8?
I'm not saying he should at this point because too much water's gone over the dam, maybe. But it was a big mistake. Obama didn't want him, and the head of your country, the proud head of your country, didn't want him. This was a big mistake. You wouldn't have.
And I'm going to say this. I think we can all agree. He don't like Obama. He don't like Obama at all. This is like a poke at Obama for sure. But it's almost one of the most brilliant things Donald Trump has ever said. Why would you exclude a country who's at war and with anybody? Why would that powerful with anybody, with that ability to be a big global trading partner with everybody? Why would you want to exclude them? Even if you are mad, even if the U.S. is into all this, get rid of the sanctions. Stop sanctioning these countries. Let people do business with who they want to do business with. Unless it affects us. If it affects us, then we're not going to do business with you. But when you go to the point where you're choking them off and telling all your friends don't do trade with them, and that might be their only way to survive, and then you turn them into a third world country, and I mean, who want to do that? Just don't do business with them yourself. And then anybody else be like, whatever, if that's what you want. I'm letting you know that my review on that particular country is only 2 stars. Now, if you still want to go over there and do business with them, that's on you. But I let you know. As far as I'm concerned, I would never rebuy that item. And that's fair. But God, when we start choking people out and animosities start to grow and people are bitter because they can't eat in their country because what they have of value, you shut it out where nobody wants to buy it from them anymore or can't buy it from them. So how do you expect them to survive and not turn into terrorists and decide they want to come and get you back somehow? I mean, it's motivation for all this BS that needs to be stopped and could be. If we start speaking more honestly, that, like I said, I don't know what the rest of this interview is going to go like, but up to now, Trump is like hitting it out of the park. That's genius to say that on a national stage. And anybody who think kicking Putin out is totally entitled to their own thinking or their own way of thinking or their own ideas. But how can you think that it's a good thing to not speak to your enemy? They'll remain your enemy. You might be a little sluggish sitting next to them in meetings and all that at first, but when you realize in the grand scheme of things that they need you and you need them, even if you're not directly linked to each other through trade or any other kind of business, by being a part of that network of countries, it just makes way more sense for the planet and for the survival of the planet. And to let, hopefully, that damn attack that Israel launched on Iran and Iran retaliating, let that be it. Let somebody in every country be the minister of peace or something. We need, before make everybody understand, the ministers of peace need to get together and talk before that happen. But, launching missiles. I've been hearing regular citizens from Israel, and they sound so pissed off and angry, and just to believe that the planet can get that hot that quick. Just a week and a half ago, we chilling. And now we're on the brink of World War III, and we really are, because the United States has got everybody saying we're not in the war when we really are in the war. We are a strong, big, integral part of what Israel is doing. And no matter how many times we say if the U.S. gets involved, we're involved. Let's say that. And let's just say, how long is Iran and Iran's allies going to allow us to pretend we're not involved in the war? Like when Ukraine was striking Russia, we kept pretending we weren't involved while passing them stronger and longer range missiles so they can do more damage in Russia. How can you be cordial with somebody who has given someone else the gun to kill you? It's the same thing. And we should not do that. If we really want peace, if we really want to figure this out, you don't want to give somebody else weapons that's going to harm your enemy. You want your enemy not to be your enemy. But even if you guys are neutral and don't love each other, there's no reason to be enemies. There's no reason. Listen, everybody, you got your country, he got his country. Everybody got their space. It's really so primitive compared to how advanced we are in other areas.
That war. You have your enemy at the table. Even, I don't even consider him, he wasn't really an enemy at that time. There was no concept. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But likewise, if he were a member of what was called the G8 at that time, it was always the G8, you wouldn't have a war right now.
Why not? What intelligence support are you providing Israel?
We've always supported Israel. We have for a long period of time, strongly. And Israel's doing very well right now.
Why not have China as the G8? Why not have China here, the biggest economy in the world after the United States?
Well, it's not a bad idea. I don't mind that. If somebody wants to suggest China coming in, I think we suggest. But you want to have people that you can talk to. You know, they don't talk. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. He doesn't want to talk because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8, as I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted. And, I mean, he was thrown out by Trudeau, who convinced one or two people, along with Obama. He was thrown out. And he's not a happy person about it, I can tell you that. He basically doesn't even speak to the people that threw him out. And I agree with him.
He said, and I agree with him. That is, it's smart of Trump to have a line of communication with Putin. It's good they can talk, and it's not like just, a dark channel and nothing going on there. To be able to be the head of the United States and communicate with the head of Russia, I think is a benefit. But I think it would be even more of a benefit to bring him back into the fold, and he'd be sitting down with all the other nations. And his country is probably one of the most talked about, and probably second only to Israel. And just let him back in the fold. Respect his thoughts and his wishes and his opinion. And even if it doesn't line up completely with yours, he is a world superpower, and you can't treat him like you treat some of these third world countries. You really have to give him that due respect and understand that they have freeways and libraries and universities and parks and everything over there in Russia that we have over here. And the people in Russia deserve what we all deserve: peace and being able to travel the world and not be all caught up because we don't get along with them on this level and on the brink of war on that level. And why can't we go see the world and it not be so restricted based on who our country gets along with, which means who agrees with them or doesn't agree with them. So what if they don't agree with you? Leave us all out of it and leave the missiles at home.
Go ahead.
On immigration, why are you ordering ICE to target Democratic inner cities? What's behind that?
I don't know what you're saying.
You did a post last night where you said you want ICE to really target Democratic.
Yeah, I want them to focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals. And, New York and L.A., look at L.A. L.A., those people weren't from L.A. They weren't from California, most of those people, many of those people. And, that's a focus.
Damn, for him to be on the sanctuary cities right now is absolutely crazy, because he is on a trip on foreign soil. And usually we leave our little, domestic grievances at home. But for him to be out there, just what? But, the media will throw questions out there, but usually you deflect. You leave that alone. I'm here, for the G-7. Used to be the G8, but they kicked Putin. Now, keep repeating it. But you don't bring that up necessarily. It's not something that we're all used to seeing. But when you get there, he got something on his mind. He's about to speak it. They ain't about to tell him, sir, we'd rather if you... Nah, hell nah. He like, I'm saying this shit. And he did. And he's speaking on some things. And I can see it's got the prime minister standing next to him. They're a little nervous. He keep looking all over the place. And it is a new day. Shit. Hopefully we as citizens will expect that from our presidents, being more candid, maybe not being so polished, not going out and saying what someone told you to say. But when the question comes, really answer it to the best of your ability based on what you can share with us that's not classified or whatever. But don't just be out there just BSing us and everybody be like, wow, that was a great answer. No, it ain't a great answer, because it sounds so nice and pleasant, and we want to assess all the information and put everything together, and then we're going to get back with you guys, and we're going to move whatever we do, it's going to be in the right direction, that kind of shit. Instead of saying what you're really going to do and what you're not going to do. And Trump he lost a lot of people with this deficit. It's a lot of people who really were hanging on to Trump for that one thing. Hey, they're about to get in there and be fiscally responsible. Well, that's out the window. But the other thing that's out the window is that the country is still a country, and we're 6 months into his presidency. I was under the impression that it'd be gone by now, and they'd be calling us something else. But now that we're still hanging in there, and we're not deep in recession, that means that somebody's afraid to completely pull the trigger and make us take the plunge. People still hanging around there because maybe it is a method to his madness. Maybe we have been overpumped and afraid and scared when maybe it's just another way. And it might not be the right way either, but the way we were going ain't either. Believe me that. 37 trillion, and then he's about to add to that. That's what scares me the most, because if we can't afford it, we don't get to go buy it. And that should go for the country as well. And if we have to stop giving aid to people in certain other countries, kill it all together if you have to. You know, I don't know why we would be responsible for that. I don't know why we wouldn't rather send a humanitarian group in there to get those people farming and rolling and not just cooking for them. You know, I don't understand none of that kind of stuff. But with a guy like Trump pulling the rug, people will figure it out real quick, unfortunately. It ain't always, you know, going to be the smoothest transition, but I thought by the time they implement this much of Project 2025, that the road would have got so bumpy that we'd have got out and walked, some of us. But it's not going in the direction that I thought, because I don't think Project 2025 is that far different than a lot of the things that we already do in this country. It's just the wording is different. And when they describe things to you in a certain way and put that spin in there, sometimes you're like as far away as a thin sheet of paper from what you think you hate, but it's just been some word magic used on it to soften you up and make you feel that those people are idiots because they voted for Donald Trump. And you know, you just can't believe they can't see things as clearly as you do, you know, and really it just depends on your conditioning and level of brainwashing, your environment and all that other stuff. And when it comes down to it, we all in trouble, though, because missiles are being launched on the planet now as we speak. They're going to decimate a country if they don't say, we surrender, we will never have nuclear warheads, or whatever it is they don't want to, they're going to have to agree. That's the negotiation. The United States is laying out there, this is what we want from you. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. Well, we keep negotiating as negotiations go. And if you give somebody 60 days to negotiate without being flexible enough to add a week or another 30 days or whatever, especially in an international negotiation, in some people's mind, that might be a bit unreasonable, especially when human life is, you know, at risk of being lost. And then you say, had we not intervened, they would have got us first. And I don't know. I just think it's horrible to think our planet has gotten that bad that people would really, you know, do what Israel did, do what they say Iran will do. It's just way too much actual warfare when we can negotiate our way out of a lot of that stuff. And most of it is just by our leaders being honest. And I'm not saying they're not completely dishonest, because I really believe they feel what they're saying. They feel it's best for us, the public, to not hear all that kind of stuff, their grievances. They want to put on a smile and come out and let us know that the country's never looked better. But everything behind the scenes, we see the deficit, we see the immigration issues, we see the police all in the streets, everything just going nuts all over the place. But hearing them say that everything is under control, as opposed to them saying, this place is a wreck. We got to put it back together. We got to rebuild it. We prefer the softer language. We prefer the lies. And Trump exaggerates more about what he's going to do, where he's going to take us, and where we're going to end up than he does about what when things ain't going too good, he shuts up. And when things ain't going real good, he makes it look like it is. He does the politician thing. He gets to a politician really quick. Well, it ain't that bad. That's what that. But I'm starting to listen a little bit because 6 months in, and I would have thought the plunge would have been so deep that we would be talking like crazy. People are like, we did lose money. We have obviously, and we're gonna, especially if he's taken more of a chunk out of, and putting on that deficit. That bothers me the most. I think that bothers me more than anything because it's the biggest thing that he's doing, and it's in the wrong direction. It's going up. And if we allow that to happen, then there's going to be no way we're ever going to dig ourselves out of this. I was kind of thinking and hanging on to Joe Biden being the president who had that opportunity to really kind of start it in that direction. And then we start following traditions and those kind of things. All these traditions that we've been following just cost us more money. We don't need those kind of traditions. We need sensible, sound traditions, and we need to follow those and get our country back, because I really see it slipping away from us, and people think, nah. You go to sleep at night and everything is so nice and peaceful in the United States, and people in another country are like in a bomb shelter or on a freeway, packed in a car, evacuating. And believe me, if we continue to lose money the way we are and stack our deficit up the way we are, we could be in our cars one day evacuating, because with no money, you got no defense, you got no military. So it's very important that they balance that out and figure it out and keep us upright, because we, the taxpayers, are doing our job. They gotta do what they say. What's that, Puff? You got to do your job. I'm doing mine tonight. You got to do it. They got to get on their job, though. They really do.
Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities. All blue cities. All blue cities. All Democrat-run cities. And they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
He's doing the right thing, trying to get the illegal immigrants out of here, for their sake and for our sake. It costs a lot of money. It's something huge for us to absorb. It's very difficult because for years and for decades and decades, it's been going in a particular direction. And for somebody to come in and say, hey, then what was illegal looks like it was legal. People who are here illegally, you're starting to call them law-abiding citizens. It just gets to be a little foggy and cloudy when, if our politicians cared, they'd fix it like that. It'd be just done. And then no more to talk about. All they have to do is get together right now, tomorrow, next week, and say, man, let's fix this. This is ridiculous. These are law-abiding citizens, whatever they want to call them. Because I've never seen this kind of discord in our government, where they have to rush National Guardsmen in, and that's what Trump is doing, because people think, oh no, we're good here in LA. We're good, but you're not complying with the federal statute. You're not following what he's telling you guys to do. You are operating under sanctuary city rules and guidelines, which means you're fighting against the government, which means you're working with the illegal immigrants and not coordinating your efforts with the government. So for him to call the National Guard in make perfect sense to me. I totally see it, because he can't rely on the police departments and the government officials to respond to him as teammates. They're adversarial in their approach because they don't think he should be doing what he's doing. Agree with it or don't agree with it, you still have a responsibility as a part of the government, even the state level, to work and obey and listen to the orders that are coming from the executive branch. That's how I think it should be that way. because whenever they call the National Guard out prior to now, it's never been a problem, never been an issue. And now this time it is. And it's an issue because we have divided law enforcement agencies on this front. I mean, police in Los Angeles County and the city of Los Angeles may or may not hide illegal immigrant in their custody. May or may not. Could happen if you're a sanctuary city, and not turning over illegal immigrants to federal officials is a part of your way of doing things, which is very unfortunate. I just don't know why we're so quick to be able to take on that expense so readily and so easily, and some other things just completely out of the question. That's a trip.
If you don't mind, just I'm going to exercise my role, if you will, as G7 chair, since we have a few more minutes with the president and his team, and then we actually have to start the meeting to address some of these big issues. So, alors, merci beaucoup.
Yeah, he had to shut that down. He probably was like, man, I didn't think he was going to get up here tripping like this. He's talking about the L.A. Civil unrest. He's talking about the G8 being knocked down. But I believe he probably committed to Putin and says, I'm going to say something about it, probably in their conversations, man, because I think it should be said. He felt, and he said it. Like him, dislike him, agree with that or don't agree with it. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that a guy like Putin, who is a world leader, should be excluded from anything? And if any of you say, well, he invaded Crimea, that wasn't nice, and now he's in the process of trying to invade Ukraine, and that's not nice. If you feel that those are valid reasons, I get it. I totally get it. But how do we explain some of the atrocities that we've been responsible for, and we're still in the G7, and you know what I mean? I was thinking the one to me that's recent and it's kind of clear, but it's kind of a recurring thing. It doesn't seem too complicated. It seems like a game plan that they use again and again. And it's the assassination of Gaddafi. The big thing with him was that he's oppressing his people and that he's going to acquire nuclear weapons and then use them on his own people. Like, that make a lot of sense. They had free health care. You get married, you get a house. I mean, the exports that were coming from the country, they had control of their resources over there. So the people were getting stipends back, from how much money the country made. I mean, that kind of thing. And then to have propaganda going that says this guy is harming his people. He's going to kill him. He's a genocider. And all his people now, I mean, and I was in like a little bit of disarray. And I know this is a little off topic, but we're going back. But I was in disarray myself because I was like, wow. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot. The Gaddafi thing is a lot to digest. A lot. But the reason I'm going into it like this is because for us to push this guy to get rid of his nuclear capabilities and ambitions, and for him to do it, and then the campaign continued that he's killing his people and he's doing different things that weren't exactly factual, and he ends up dead. And then when the full story comes out, it's kind of just like one of those regime change things. And the worst part of it is, if you look at it during his country up to that time, and then from that time to right in that current, and you tell me if you think that Gaddafi was harming his people. You tell me if you can compare the lifestyles from then to now. And we're going to put a period on the end of that and jump back over here and let us explain how can the United States have been responsible for all these regime changes in Africa over the decades. Just any leader they want to see overthrown, they just give the other one a whole bunch of weapons and money, and it's going down because they're going to give them something that can't be matched in that region, and it's over with. And then usually they take power, and then within a few years they go against us. The United States overthrowing all these governments down in Africa, they should be expelled from the G7. They should not be allowed to participate. I mean, if you break it down, if that's what we're going by, humanitarian type stuff, saying a country has weapons of mass destruction and you go in and then you find out it could have been done another way. It wasn't like that. And you overthrew the government in the process. It's just those kind of things that are so excusable depending on who do it. And we need to be able to look in the mirror and admit our faults and admit the wrong things that we do, like Trump does to a point when somebody else did it. But he hasn't been very good at doing that when it's his mistakes either. And that's kind of unfortunate, because if he was that blunt, oh my God, he'd probably be the best president ever. But he ain't that blunt and that honest when it comes to self-reflection. But what do you guys think, man? I mean, the United States of America is a bully. It would be nice if we settled it down. I think start kind of circling the wagons and work hard on that deficit, figure it out, and stop giving our country away to other countries, or basically we're selling it for individual gain and not for the gain of the whole country, not for everybody's benefit, but just for the privileged certain few corporations or contractors or whoever's got the inside track. And that's messed up. We all want to live in harmony and peace and all of that stuff, but, we got to be more honest about a lot of stuff and not make it look like, the way we were living was such a wonderful thing and you guys are so homesick for it. We have a lot of work to do. And if we start acting like either one of these sides has got the right answer, then we ain't going nowhere fast. Like, comment, share, and please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.